The following is a presentation of Project Independence and WCWP. Project Independence is the Aging in Place initiative of the town of North Hempstead. We provide programs and services designed to assist and support the older town residents who wish to remain in their homes as they age. If we don't currently provide a service, we will try and connect you to that service. Call 311 or 869-6311 to get more information or receive services.
Welcome to Project Independence and You.
Good morning and welcome to Project Independence and You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I am your host today, Rebecca Miller, along with our co-host, Otto Lohse. Good morning, Otto.
Good morning, Rebecca.
How are you today?
I'm good. It's good. It's a nice day out, a little windy, but nice.
A little windy, yeah. That seems to be the mantra these days, a little bit windy. Otto, we have a great show today. Our guest is Corina, and Eileen is President and Patient Safety Advocate at the Pulse Center for Patient Safety Education and Advocacy. And we'll be talking to Eileen shortly, but one of the things that I did want to mention today is Friday, April 29, 2022. Just for those who might be viewing this after, while it's recorded or archived. But again, today's Friday, April 22nd. At Clinton Martin Park today in New Hyde Park, there is a Catholic Health System is offering the Moderna vaccine for people over 50. It's a booster. So you need to bring your vaccine card. You can just walk in. They're only here until 12 p.m. So this is the Moderna vaccine for people over 50 or immunocompromised are also eligible. This is for the second booster. So if you fit into that category, you're 50 and over, immunocompromised, you can come to Clinton Martin Park today up until 12 noon. So you don't need an appointment. You can just show up. Again, it's 1601 Marcus Avenue in New Hyde Park. So just a little announcement. I know that they're hoping to see a lot of people, and they are trying to get the word out. So back to our show. Otto, so we have Eileen with us, and all kinds of very interesting questions that we have for you regarding patient safety, education, and advocacy. And I mean, one of my first questions is, it's so important, from seniors to people who are sick, who can't advocate for themselves. What kind of drove you in this direction to become, basically a patient advocate?
Well, it really wasn't my choice. It wasn't something I grew up thinking about. But after, in 1990, my son had a tonsillectomy. And for a week after his surgery, he was bleeding and he died from the tonsillectomy. And so as horrible as that was, that happened, nobody asked me what went wrong or what could have been done differently or how things could have been changed. I was left out of the conversation and felt that, well, if nobody's going to learn from this, I'm going to start teaching people about what can go wrong in the healthcare system, and started attending conferences, medical conferences, where I learned that many people were dying from injuries caused by the healthcare system and being injured, and we weren't talking about it. And I felt the public needed to know what their role was in staying safe, and started a support group back in the late 90s. We started as a support group. Pulse was a support group. And then hearing all the stories, we realized that people who had these experiences could become teachers. And if they could, because that's what people wanted. They want to make sure it never happens again. They want to make sure they're safe. So we needed to start talking about it, and with the healthcare professionals. So our goal is really to include people who work in the healthcare system, the general public, people who are patient advocates and want to be patient advocates and caregivers, to talk about experiences that work, not telling somebody what they should do, but what has worked for them in the healthcare system to get positive outcomes.
I'm sure all of us have experienced some bad experiences, if you will. One of the biggest things to me when somebody ends up in the hospital, many times you don't know who's in charge, who's the boss as far as you're concerned. And you have to go running all over the hospital, try to find somebody. And you end up many times talking to a nurse, because they're there and they're more open to talking to you. But if you're going into a hospital and it's not your normal doctor, if you will, I find every time anybody I'm involved with has that experience, it's very, very difficult to find out who's the boss, who's in charge.
Right. And actually, we do courses, we teach families called family-centered patient advocacy, because in most cases, family and friends want to help. They just don't know what to do. So we do have an 8-hour course, and we do have an academy with 1-hour sessions. And every month we have 3 programs. One of the things we do teach is that we should be talking to the nurse first. The nurse, if you have a question about the care, about who's in charge, and the nurse can't help you, they will instruct you on who to go to and who to speak to. So we don't want to overstep the nurse who is right there and knows the history and knows the care. Of course, if you're not satisfied with the response or how, if they seemed overworked, then you have every right to go into the administrative office and find somebody in charge. And that could be a patient experience officer. They're called a lot of things now. Patient representative, patient advocate. Those are the people who work for the hospital or the health system. But as a reminder, we're trying to reach people before they ever become a patient. So if you're not prepared, then you're at the mercy of the healthcare system once you go in. Once you go into the doctor's office, if you don't know what to expect when you go in for an exam, you're at their mercy, because it's too late then to start preparing. You can't prepare once you're there.
Eileen, first of all, I'm so very sorry that that happened. It's so tragic, but I'm so thankful to you for trying to make a change. And, I hear what you're talking about, because one of the things that, we talk a lot about with Project Independence is we talk every single show, planning. When we don't plan for anything like this, whether it's like a roof leak or a health condition, you always seem to be in the emergency, like, oh my God, I need this help now. Who do I reach out to? You don't know where to go. So, what you're trying to do is wonderful, because you're trying to educate people and, give them ideas and how to plan for if something happens, or even basically what to do at a doctor appointment. One of the programs that we have at Project Independence is called a Circle of Support. And it came about at an advisory meeting where the residents, the seniors, come and we talk about everything in their particular region in North Hempstead. And there was this sense that it's a Great Neck tends to be the older seniors too. And there were a lot of the more older seniors as our members, our Project Independence members. And always the theme there always turned out like they needed an advocate when they went to a doctor, and the doctor tells them a million different things. And they're still stuck on, wait, I have to increase my medication. They wanted to go to the podiatrist, they have to get an x-ray of this. And they're still kind of like, okay, so are you going to call in the prescription? What do I do? Blah, blah, blah. So having kind of an advocate was the theme there. And through that, we came up with this Circle of Support, which is basically your book, a booklet that you can work with one of our social workers or nurses that helps you plan, everybody who's in your circle, how to reach out. So kind of in a nutshell. So, you're going through, or you've started to go through before we even did that planning process. How do you find the best way to kind of connect with people, to kind of give them this information that, these are the questions you should be asking. These are the people you should know. This is who you should take with you to your doctor. How do you kind of like educate people on that?
Well, we do workshops. And of course, being here today is really helpful, because we don't have a marketing budget. We're all volunteers, and we don't have a huge marketing firm working with us. So every opportunity we ask people to share the message and the information. So most of us have heard this already. They bring somebody with you to the doctor or the hospital, but what is that person supposed to be doing when they're there? Are they there to, read a book? Are they there to watch TV? Are they there to take notes? The other thing that very often happens, And again, we remind people, because we do these educational seminars very often and love doing them, because 100% of the time that I do a program, I just did one 2 weeks ago, I learned something too, because we're asking about real life experiences, something I didn't even think of. I'll learn from someone else. So we ask people to go with somebody, take the notes, get the information, share the information. Who's the right person to go? I always say there's somebody to hold the coat, there's somebody to hold the pocketbook, there's somebody to drive, there's somebody to make the casserole, but then there's somebody who's going to sit there and ask the appropriate questions. And how involved do you want that person? And we got to remember that a patient advocate is not the healthcare proxy or a surrogate decision maker. That's a person, it's a legal form or a legal issue where somebody is talking for the patient when they're not speaking for themselves. A patient advocate is a helper and a support. They're not going to make the decisions for the patient, and they're not allowed to. They're really not supposed to. So we always want to know the cutoff on when I'm overstepping my bounds, how I can support somebody. And we do something now, or if you think about when your friends in the hospital and they say, the doctor just came in, I got to go. Instead, we encourage people to say, stay on the phone. The doctor just came in, go on speaker and start taking notes. Do not hang up when the doctor or nurse comes in. That's when they need you the most. So we forget that whoever is on that phone or in that room, because now it's hard to get in there, can be your support person.
One of the things I see a lot still is, and I don't know how you handle this, but the need to encourage people that the doctor is a human being who's on the clock nowadays more than ever, and that you are a partner in your health, and you have to be not afraid to ask questions, or frankly, if you look up information on Dr. Google and you want to question what you read about Dr. Google, you're allowed to do that. And a lot of people still have that fear of doing that. I know people that, they go to the doctor and they say, well, what did he say? Well, did you ask him? No. Sometimes people are afraid to confront the doctor. And then they may have another fear, which is the fear of really finding out something they don't want to know. So how do you handle that part of the whole thing? The mental.
That's a great question, because that's something we focus on right away. I worked in the post office for 20 years before I started doing this full time. I resigned, not really retired, but left the post office to do this. And I always share the experience that I can't find a doctor that knows how to mail a letter the way they want to mail a letter. So it's my job to explain the difference in registered mail and certified mail. And if you work in a supermarket and you know what products are there in the supermarket, you're the most important person to that doctor who is now shopping in your supermarket. So when we're with people who are doing a presentation and I find out that somebody is a hairdresser or they're retired from cutting hair, the doctor comes to them for services just like we go to the doctor for services. It's no different. It's different schooling, different education, different information, but it's still a service that they're giving us. And we have to start thinking of that as a service. And we are, like you said, a partner in our care. It's more than a partner. It's my care. And if I don't want you doing what you're saying you're going to do, I have a right to stop the press and start talking about what I want to do instead. So we have to go one step further than being a partner. I'm in charge and not being afraid of speaking up. But remember, when we do go to the doctor or hospital, we're going for surgery, that's our most vulnerable time. If we're going to a restaurant and we're asking somebody what is the difference between chicken cutlet parmesan and chicken piccata, and the waitress is going to tell us that, we're not scared for our life or our safety or our health. We're going to have dinner. So it's a very different part of our psyche that we're thinking about when we go into the hospital or a doctor.
Right, because you've got the whole fear factor in there as well. I mean, you're not afraid if you're ordering food. So, when you're in the hospital and the doctor comes in, you can say to the doctor, if they're talking fast and clearly they're busy, say, you need to slow down. I'm not understanding and I'm confused. And, it does snap. I mean, there are doctors that understand that too. They have to, maybe they'll take a breath, or you can ask them to take a breath. Like, don't be afraid. You have to take care of yourself. And if you're actually in the hospital, and the fear is getting the information, as opposed to not knowing. So, maybe giving, I guess a lot of what you're doing in a sense, Eileen, is empowering, trying to empower people to, have an advocate, but be their own advocate and, kind of give them direction and the best ways to do it.
Right. And right now, one of the things that I do when I go with somebody, because I don't do it as much as I used to do. I used to go a lot to hospitals and doctors with people because I found it was educational. The policies are made in the boardroom, but the errors and accidents and injuries happen at the bedside. So I wanted to be there to see what was happening. And I found that as I talk to people and listen to what their conversations are with their clinician, it's very intimidating because they don't even know what to ask until they get there. And then when they feel that they're being talked over and they don't understand this, to be able to say, stop, I don't get it. And then there's something called teach back, where I will say, and I'll do it first to show the patient, I'm going to repeat back what I think I heard you say. Tell me if I'm right. And sometimes I'm wrong. I might get it wrong. And then the next time I'll ask the patient to do it. And since I'm writing everything down, sometimes I find it easier to just say to the doctor, could you give me a printout of our time together? And they've been doing that. It might take a day, but they've been giving me a printout of everything they talked about, what we talked about, and then we have time to look up information and get better acquainted with the conversation. But you can ask for a printout of your medical visit and they'll give it to you. And now with portals, it's all in there. So we don't always know the conversation or the questions to ask because we don't even understand what they're talking about.
Right.
I was in the world of sales, business to business sales all my life. And I would prepare sometimes for a major kind of call, maybe 6, 7, 8 hours for a 1-hour call. And if you can't take the time to prepare for your own health, I think you should take the time, to educate yourself, to learn the questions, to talk to other people, because that's about as an important a call as you're going to make, is the one that goes when you go to the doctor about your own health.
Good time to take a quick break. We have to take a quick break. We've been speaking with Eileen Corina about the Pulse Center, Patient Safety, Education, and Advocacy, and we will be right back.
So I get this call from my grandma, and she's like,
"What's a podcast, and how much does it cost?"
So I tell her, podcasts are like radio shows, but you can download them on any device and listen to them anywhere at any time, and they're free. And then she says,
"I see, but where can you find good ones?"
And I'm like, go to wcwp.org/podcast and check out the lineup of original shows, or download any podcast app on your phone or tablet and search for LIU Studios. And she's all like,
"Oh, that sounds easy."
And then she asked me what an app is.
LIU Studios podcasts, available on any podcast app. Those little button things on your phone screen. Just ask your grandkids.
Welcome back to Project Independence and You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm your host, Rebecca Miller, along with Otto Lohse, our co-host, our permanent co-host, and of course, Kristina Liu, who is the radio show producer and brings together all of our terrific guests and a lot more. Of course, we'll be talking to Kristina later, where you have some special guests coming up too after this segment, and then we'll talk of the town. So Eileen, thank you so much for joining us today. A lot of information. We're just, and you're moving with us really well. We're getting we're getting great education here today. So thanks so much. I know, Otto, you had a question.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about 5 steps to safer healthcare. And I thought maybe if you could just tell us what those 5 steps are, it might be good info.
Sure. The website, there's a website for it, takecharge.care, C-A-R-E. And it came up in a couple of years ago, we're on our 3rd year. How do we explain what patient safety is and make sure that the patient and their family take some responsibility for their own safety? Medical errors, studies came out from Johns Hopkins that medical errors are the 3rd leading cause of death in the country. And if you don't die or you're not injured, errors still happen, mistakes happen. And it was time to say, how do we explain patient safety or patient empowerment to somebody who's going into the hospital or the healthcare system before they get there? So we looked and we did the research on what are the most common things that would be protective of somebody going into the healthcare system. And the 5 steps are number one is understand and complete your advanced directives. Now, that's important because, especially a healthcare proxy, because that's the person who will speak for you when you can't speak for yourself and make decisions for you. As an advocate, I have been asked when somebody's being wheeled into surgery to be their healthcare proxy, and I know nothing about them. So that's something that we want to make sure before you go into surgery, before you get in an accident, God forbid, if you're a young person, 18 years old and leaving for college, or it's not automatic that your family can talk for you. So we want people to recognize that at 18 years old, we need to have somebody that we trust to make the decisions for us because we've had the conversation, not guessing. So that's step number one. And each step we go through a full month. So April is all about the healthcare proxy. Step number two is to keep a record of your medications and your medical history. And that, again, is so when you go into the hospital, the doctor, I've seen patients when asked, what is your medications? They'll say, I don't remember. It's a little pill. I don't remember. Well, we can't, especially now the healthcare providers are completely stressed and overworked and understaffed. We have to be more responsible about what our history is and what medications we're taking and carry that with us at all times. So we want people to have that list with them of over-the-counter medications, their herbs, anything it has to do with their medical care. Did they have their gallbladder removed 20 years ago? What is their own medical history? Be responsible for that. Step number three is prepare for the doctor visit with a list of questions and a list of symptoms. So if you're going into the doctor's office, many of us have heard about the doorknob question. When the doctor puts their hand on the doorknob, they're ready to leave. We have a ton of questions. Well, if you have symptoms that have been concerning for the last few weeks, and now you're getting to the doctor, make sure you have that list ready. You need a flu shot. Did you get your results of your tests, your whatever you need? Have that list ready and go in with it prepared so you can get the answers that you need. Step number four is ask a caregiver to wash their hands. Infections, people are dying from infections, especially now. If I tell you, I just wrote a letter to a health system because I can't see people washing their hands, healthcare professionals. They walk in and they touch things. And as an advocate, I wash down the patient after they touch them. If they're touching, they're putting the thing on the oxygen on the finger, they take it out of their pocket, they put it in their pocket. Did they wash that? Did they wash their hands? Mm-hmm. This is the first thing they're taught in school is wash your hands before you touch someone. Now they've touched the doorknob, they've touched the clipboard, they've touched the computer, and now they're going to touch your family member or yourself. Ask them to wash their hands. We joke about this because I don't think I have it with me, but I actually use Twizzlers or lollipops where I could say to somebody, I know you probably did it already, but would you do it again for a Twizzler? And people laugh and they do.
Disarming, right?
Exactly. And they walk out with their Twizzler and we explain how proud we are that they wash their hands because we don't want that tension of telling somebody who's just went through 10 years of school and has been a doctor for 10 years that you didn't even wash your hands. We have to get them to wash their hands. And it's not only about the germs, but it's also a sign of respect and trust. If you can't even wash your hands, how could I possibly trust you? And could you possibly respect me if you're going to touch me with I don't know where your hands were last. And number 5 is be an advocate and advocate for others and use an advocate. And again, that's a little different than the healthcare proxy. That's a support person. So we want people to look for how they're going to support somebody else going through the healthcare system as their support person and as their advocate. Going back to step 1 with the healthcare proxy and somebody to speak for you, when we were in this pandemic full force, every person that was on a ventilator could not speak for themselves. So this was suddenly people could not speak for themselves. And if they were not prepared, they're on their own. There's nobody that's going to automatically be speaking for them. So those are the 5 steps. And the last one, of course, is advocate for others and be an advocate and use an advocate. And there's places to find people. There's professional patient advocates. We work with families. If somebody says they don't have family, we help them find somebody that might support them, a volunteer in their faith community, or as you said, sounds like you have a great program going for supporting people. And we want those all over. We want people to help people.
You know,
I,
go ahead. Hmm?
I was going to say, what do you think, Eileen, of all these portals that have been coming out over the last several years, where if your doctors are all within one healthcare system, which I mean, isn't usually all the time, they can access all your medications, all the test results, everything, all in this portal. I mean, are you finding that a decent tool these days?
Well, it's helpful because we can get that information too. But I was with somebody yesterday, the doctor, and I went to one portal and then the other portal and then the x-rays and the blood work and the sonogram and had to pull it all together for the doctor. So it's not the best, but we have to be on top of it. And again, that's what something an advocate could do, a family member or friend can do for somebody. An older adult, it gets complicated. Remember, they're also vulnerable and scared and frustrated. So that could be one job of somebody to try to pull all this information together and make sure the doctors have all the information.
Well, but my chart enables you to, like my wife has NYU Langone, Catholic Health, what was the other one? A hospital for special surgery. And she's able to share among the three of them on one site. There's a way you can share your information. And with my chart, I can't speak for anything else, but it's a great tool.
It is, and you want to make sure that it's up to date and the information's correct. Now, I've seen other people's information in there. I actually wrote to the health system that did that they sent us somebody else's information. So there is human error that can happen in these. We want to be really careful. If you say you got a sonogram of your, the thyroid, you want to make sure that that's in there and it's not something else.
Not every doctor's bought in on that either. We have a doctor who still doesn't put anything in and doesn't use it, even though we go there. And I find that to be a problem, frankly, personally. But she likes the doctor, so,
Right.
I believe that the doctor's got to get with it. The other part of what you mentioned, preparing for the doctor's visit with the questions and the fact that they are on the clock, and understandably they are stressed. But my opinion is if you can't talk to the doctor, you probably ought to look for another doctor, my opinion.
Yeah. When I do presentations, and this is high school also, when I go into schools, the first question I ask is, what do you like about your doctor? And some people love that they can get in and out. You don't want to have a conversation. Just give me my medication and get me out of here. Some want a long conversation. Some, the bedside manner really matters to them. So it's a very personal choice. Some people want somebody with years and years of experience. But I went to my son. I had a son who's severely premature. And the doctor with years and years of experience had no idea how to treat a baby that was born just at a pound. But the young doctor that was coming in just finished his residency and was very familiar with the machines he was on, how he was doing, all the information that I was able to pass to him. The older doctor had no clue. He never heard of this stuff. So it's a very personal choice. And in a room full of people who are, living near each other, when somebody says they don't like their doctor, I like to make sure that they find somebody in that room that they might have a referral right there. And here that somebody else loves their doctor because they have golf magazines in their office. If that's what's important, it's a personal choice. What is your personal choice? If that's what it is, then you choose. But you want to make sure it's somebody you can talk to. I don't believe in acronyms. I fight doctors on acronyms, on using words we don't understand. If I don't know what a CAT scan is, that's okay. I'm going to ask you, could you explain what a CAT scan is, what an MRI is, what a difference in an x-ray? Every single time, to make sure the patient that I'm with understands. I don't want them to feel inferior because they don't know. So I will ask all the questions to make it about me. And, not the questions about their health, but I want to make sure that they understand what's happening. I don't want them to feel that they have to do that.
Your thoughts on something that I also find people reluctant to do. I'm a big one on I use Quest. All right. So send my prescription for lab tests to them before I see you, not when I go see you, then you tell me to go get tests, and then maybe I'm going to get a phone call. My opinion is that if you get the tests in advance and you get the results, you are in a position to ask questions about the results. And some people seem to be very reluctant to do that.
Because they don't know. Not everybody knows that they could do that. You're right. And also, I just learned something this month. that if you use an independent lab for your blood work, all your doctors have access to it. But if you use a doctor's office, very often another doctor can't have access to that because the other doctor owns it. So if your doctor says you want to get your blood work done here, now I'm not giving advice, I'm just saying this is what I learned. If your doctor says you're here, why don't you get your blood work done here? We have a lab. They probably don't have a lab. They have a person who takes blood and then sends it out, and the doctor owns it. If you go to a place like Quest, I'm not recommending Quest, but if you go to an independent lab, then you can have access to all your records, and everybody else can also.
Well, like Quest, as an example, and there are others I know, you can actually get a comparison of the numbers over the last 10 years in certain numbers if they go up and down or whatever. It's good. It's valuable information.
Right. And it's very important to use the same place for that reason, and pharmacy. You don't want to mix up your pharmacy. We had an incident recently where a patient had a medication that we were picking up at the pharmacy, and the pharmacist said, I know that this patient is using this other medication. If I gave the patient this medication, his heart would have stopped. That was her words. His heart would have stopped. Now, she only knew this because she knew all the medications he was on. So she said, I called the doctor and had it changed. Well, I would have never known that. I don't care how good you are as an advocate. You're not going to know that.
Right.
She knew it because we were using the same pharmacist. Now, if we went down the road to a different pharmacist, they might not know what medications this patient was on, and he would have taken the medication that would have been dangerous. So you want to stay with the same pharmacist and get your medications reviewed every once in a while too.
And here's also kind of a common issue. I managed a very busy doctor's office for many years. He was a director of medical education. He had residents, interns, students coming out. So I've been on that end. I've been at the front desk. I've been managing, and then all that. I've worked at hospitals. Things have changed over the years, but there's a lot of seniors I talk to. And of course, it's not the majority of offices where they have a doctor that they love and has helped them. However, the office staff, the front desk, the greeters are very difficult to deal with, whether it's being nasty or it's not treating them as kind of, you're a senior, you don't have a disability, or not that, there are all kinds of disabilities, but sometimes older people are not treated like, they're like almost like children. And, that's unfair too. So it's it's that front desk that sometimes doctors lose patience because they can't get around the front desk people. What types of advice? I'm sure this is something that you're familiar with, how to deal with the front desk staff, especially if they're complicated and you really like your doctor.
You write letters, put it in writing. This week, 2 days ago, the woman at the front desk took out her mask, licked her fingers, and went through the papers in front of me. And I said to her, "Are you kidding me? Did you just lick your fingers?" I mean, we're all masked up. And she got offended that I said something. Well, I just couldn't even believe what I was seeing. So she poured alcohol on her hands. I went right to the doctor and told the doctor when we went in, I told the doctor what I just saw. Now, if the doctor didn't seem to take it seriously, I would write to the office manager. But we need to let them know because, again, they don't know what's happening there. If somebody is rude or inconsiderate, they could be having a bad day, but they should not be taking it out on the person who's there. Again, they're most vulnerable. They're already scared and probably nervous about what's going to happen. It's like any other customer service. They should not be treated that way. And one of the things that I do is I'm pretty obnoxious when it comes to being protective of the person I'm with. So I could be very, very polite, but I'm also feel very strong, like what I saw the other day. I made sure that everybody in that office heard me say, "Did you just lick your fingers?" Because that was not the first time she's done that. Or when somebody says to somebody, "Wait your turn." As an advocate, I could step up and say, "Could you be a little more polite? If you're having a bad day, do you want me to ask the doctor to let you go home? Do you need me to advocate for you to be done here?" So we need to remember that if they speak up, we're catching the person off guard. They may straighten out and they don't even realize what they're doing. And it happens with every profession. we have to remember to speak up and let the office manager know, because they are not seeing what's happening. And there's usually an office manager at every profession. I'm sure, you could probably tell better than me who the person would be to contact, or the doctor. And even waiting too long. I went to a doctor that I stopped bringing a book to read, because as soon as I got there, I was called in and I asked him why. He said, because I waited 2 hours once for a doctor. And I said, I'd never do that to my patients. So it is not impossible to be treated with courtesy in a doctor's office or in a place of, any place of business. We just want to make sure they know what's happening.
Right.
That's an interesting.
So we'll come back to that, because I have a thought on that as well. But we do have to take a quick break. Eileen, thank you so much again for all this information. We've been speaking with Corina, and we're talking about the Pulse Center for Patient Safety, Education, and Advocacy. And we're getting a lot of information. We'll be right back.
WCWP is your home for great music and great conversation. You'll find all that and more on WCWP.org. Listen live on the web, check out the lineup, subscribe to podcasts, and stay up to date on the latest station events. Get in touch with us and let us know if you like what you're hearing. And find out how you can support or get involved at the only community public radio station serving Nassau's North Shore. Plus, sign up to get a free bumper sticker. It's all online at WCWP.org.
Welcome back to Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio and 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We're speaking with Corina with the Pulse Center for Patient Safety, Education, and Advocacy, and getting a lot of great information and education on advocacy and safety for patients. So thank you so much. One thing I do want to ask before, I know Otto, we'll go right to you. What's the best way for someone to get in touch with you?
Oh, well, our website is pulsecenterforpatientsafety.org. My email is iCarina@pulsecenterforpatientsafety.org. Letter I, Corina. And our phone number is 516-579-4711.
Okay, and anybody needs that information that's listening, please, call 311 and ask for Kristina or I, and we'll make sure that you get all the information to connect with Eileen. So Otto, I know before over break, you had a question.
Well, no, it really goes down to office staff, the ease of communicating with a doctor, not necessarily while you're there, but trying to get somebody for information, maybe renewal for a prescription or whatever. I've had doctors where I don't do it anymore. I had to wait 2 hours, and it was acceptable behavior, if you will. No, right. I don't think so. But there are ways nowadays that you can communicate. I find that at least some doctors respond to email, and I think the way they do it is they don't necessarily look at every email. Somebody on the staff is looking at the emails, clearing what they can't handle to the doctor. But for people who don't do email, you're counting on the phone, and you're counting on somebody to call you back, and that's sometimes a big challenge. Any suggestions?
Well, again, somebody has to know that this is happening. Do they actually know this is happening? They may not know. Are you calling during lunchtime? Are you calling, I find the same thing happens. I call different hours. What's the best time to call? You might want to ask that. Calling at the end of the day, I could be on hold for an hour at the end of the day and then disconnected. I call back and they say, we're gone for the day. So what was the point of that? But there's no easy way to get past that unless we talk to them about what's the best thing to do and letting them know. We all share these frustrations, but we need to go back to them and ask about it. And there's some places I call that they know my name. They know who I'm calling about because I've had these conversations, these gentle conversations with them about customer service.
And I like what you said, Eileen. Definitely ask to speak with the office manager. And if you're on hold and you get one of those cues where press 1 if you're a doctor or press 2 if you're only a patient kind of thing, press 1. Say, I'm just as important as the doctor, and you might get the office manager answering the phone. Don't do it immediately. Give them the opportunity to do the right thing. And, if they're not doing the right thing, you're not getting back, you need to be heard. So just a little trick.
That's a good idea.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a great.
Don't tell anyone.
Well, Pulse, I saw that you provide support for to people who've experienced medical errors. How does that work? What kind of support do you provide?
Well, we have 3 programs a month. We're all through Zoom now. We're all online. We used to have support groups where we would meet and talk about our experiences. The first Wednesday of the month in the evening, we do have an opportunity where people could share their experience. And that's the support, is that people want to know that somebody else is going to learn from their experience, that they're going to be heard, and they can maybe even help somebody by what they've experienced. So again, we don't tell people you need to tell the doctor to wash their hands. We talk about how it works for us. How do I do it? What works for me? How did I choose a healthcare proxy? I work with a group who have HIV, and the conversation of the healthcare proxy came up. And one person, there were 13 people in the room, and one person said, I don't want anybody to know I have HIV. How do I choose a healthcare proxy? Well, the truth is, I didn't have the answer. I didn't know. But it was really interesting to think about what do we do now? And I allowed them to have that conversation. I learned a little bit about what it's like to try to choose somebody when you don't want people to know your business. And we learn from each other. So that's called a PAC, Patient Activation Through Community Conversations. It's actually my favorite of all our 3 programs because it is just a conversation. It's a discussion. You bring your interest, and the interest might be, what do you do when you're on hold for 2 hours and nobody's picking up? What are other people doing about that? We could learn. Maybe somebody will say, I call and press 1 saying I'm the doctor. That's how we learn from each other. Nobody's taught how to be a patient. It's not anywhere in any classroom. I would love for high school kids to get 2 hours a year. It's not out there. So if you don't know what an appropriate exam is for a 4-year-old girl, and you don't know if your blood pressure is high on your right arm, is the doctor supposed to do it again on the left arm? We don't know the standards of care, but all we can do best is learn from each other. So if I know what's happening with you, I'm more empowered to ask a question about if it worked for you, maybe it'll work for me. And we become more empowered that way.
So what I'm hearing is like you provide that kind of support, but this is not like legal support where you're not going to get involved with lawyers, which is unfortunately a common solution nowadays.
And they say that only 1 out of 8 people that can sue actually do. A lot of people say, I don't want to sue. Like in my case, when my son died, I didn't need any money. He was dead. What did I need money for? But I wanted somebody to talk to me about what happened. And this is what I find from people, that they want to be angry at their doctor. They want to punish them by suing. Well, first of all, half the time, I don't know the numbers, but it's a tremendous amount of people cannot get a lawyer because you have to prove that is malpractice, that it was, away from not the standard of care. You have to prove all this, and that takes a lot of money and a lot of time. If you want to talk about your experience and really have others learn, then we will work with people. And a lot of times attorneys send people to us because they turn away a case and they don't know what to do with people. So we want to hear their stories, because every time somebody says, I was given a medication, it was the wrong medication, that's a lesson there. Like, how could we fix that for the next person? We want to hear these, even if somebody didn't die or wasn't injured. There's very often lessons in our healthcare experience.
Right, for sure. Do you ever get, go ahead.
You have initials after your name, BCPA, and I looked it up. It's Board Certified Patient Advocate. Could you just give us a little background on that, what it means,
Sure.
And what you had to go through to get that?
Sure. It's fairly new. It's been out a few years, I think 3 or 4 years, to become board certified. We take a test. We have some knowledge on ethics. Ethics is a big deal. It's a very long and complicated test. And we have to continue our continuing education, which at Pulse, we do offer continuing education for patient advocates. Ironically, I didn't want to get board certified because I said, I'm doing this for 20 years. What's the point? And then I said, well, I want to know if I'm doing it right. And somebody said, well, maybe everybody else isn't doing it right. Maybe you are. But then I wanted to do it. And I love having the knowledge and the support of other patient advocates, people who care for their family and want to do something with their, with their knowledge. Let's say the parent died or somebody died after they cared for them. They might want to think about becoming a patient advocate. We will mentor them through. We will help them decide if that's what they want to do, but they could charge for their services. we're ideally, we don't charge for our advocacy services because it's just something that I never wanted us to do, because we don't do long-term patient advocacy, and we want other people to step in and help patients and families. So that's our goal, but not to put a dollar amount on what we do. But if somebody does need a patient advocate, if they're going to the hospital or they live out of town, there's now patient advocates around the country, around the world, really, who could step in and help. There's different prices. There's no real set guide on the cost, but they have to do the search for a patient advocate. And again, we look at the family member. So if somebody's sitting at the bedside in a hospital and they have to go to work, they may have a family member who may step up and say, I'll sit there today so you can go to work. Or an advocate, one of our volunteers, may turn into a position where they could pay them $20 an hour to sit at the bedside. For $100. Somebody can go to work for 5 hours. So that's what our goal is.
Eileen, have you seen growth? I mean, have you seen things change over the years, over the decades? You know, one of the things that's coming to mind is that I'm curious about is a lot of times you go to the doctor, if you're in a hospital or something, they send a survey. You know, how is your care? How is all of that? So like, where is that going? But I'm curious also to know, you know, what strides you may see that are in the right direction.
Well, I think patient advocacy is going to be a real up and coming business. There's over 1,000 now in the country, and I think people are going to start taking it seriously. I think it is a profession that people should start looking at and become more involved. Again, if you don't want your mother or your sister with you at the bedside, who could you possibly ask to come with you? And there's so many different types of advocates. There's billing, there's insurance, there's safety. We only focus on safety. So there's so many different types. And it's all for the patient's, you know, for the patient's support. It's not, we don't work for the hospital. So you want to be careful that, you know, that's the difference. It's independent patient advocate. You don't have to be board certified. There's no requirement. People have been doing this for years without board certification. They've been a support person. So now the board certification means that there's a higher power we have to answer to, but it also means that, that we become educated, we keep up on our credentialing, and stay in touch with what's new out there.
Is there a pulse type organization for nursing homes?
We don't know. There's organizations that work with nursing homes and support nursing homes. There's a lot of organizations in this area. I know last week you had a great group on. If we're needed in a nursing home, we will go to a nursing home if that's where we're needed, if there's a problem there. So we don't look at regulating. We're not regulators. We're not going to go in with a clipboard and say what's wrong with this place. We look at the patient and their family and their needs and make sure that they're being heard wherever they are, whatever healthcare setting they're in. We can step in, and our goal is to really bring everyone together for the sake of the patient. So if somebody's not happy, or there's something going wrong, or they're getting their bed sores, we want the conversation between the family and the healthcare system. And it could be administration, it could be nurse in charge, it could be somebody else in the facility, or they may have to go to the regulatory boards, to the regulatory agencies that go in and look at the nursing homes. Are they safe? But the idea is that takes a while, and there's an immediacy to needing somebody who is unsafe at a nursing home. If you feel your loved one is not safe and we come in, we're going to start looking at, we need this. This is a problem. And we need to make sure that person is safe now, not as we go through the system right now. How do we fix this now?
Sorry, it's Kristina here. I'm just, buzzing in because I'm very, just taking in. I mean, Eileen, you are just such a plethora of information and knowledge. And I know you had mentioned that your organization really just focuses, mainly on like the safety components. And you had touched upon, billing advocates and any other. So if someone needs, that kind of thing, could they call you and you can refer them out to another agency? Is there agencies like that around here?
Yeah, there's a few different websites I would send people to. It's on our website where you can go and look for other advocates. I could put information out there and ask people what they're, if they're willing to take a case. And again, if it might be something that we could work through together, that they don't have to hire somebody. Okay, ideally, advocates who make a lot of money don't love that we say that, but they also give, the first time consulting, or they do some pro bono work. If somebody really can't afford this, we don't want to turn them away. We want people to have the support. So yeah, we a lot of us work together. There's a coalition building now, and there's a lot of support building with patient advocates, professional patient advocates.
Now, we touched on this earlier in the show that hospitals, whatever they're called, are now theoretically supposed to have a patient advocate. Is that pretty strong? I mean, is that something that you can count on to help you? Or
well, if you know the term, I need a patient advocate, chances are you'll get somebody who's in charge, because you want somebody higher than they're usually in administration. They're the person in charge. And we often encourage people to find out who that person is before you're admitted to the hospital. Mm-hmm. So you have that person before anything escalates. Or I might call, if somebody calls me and said, this is happening in the hospital, I might call and talk to the patient advocate's office with the patient's permission, give the phone number, and make that connection, because sometimes it gets very heated and we don't want that. We want to be respectful also. And patient advocates can very often, independent patient advocates can very often be more respectful than a family member who's really angry and not seeing how things are happening, not seeing that there's a person at the other end of the phone.
Something on the kind of other end of the age spectrum that has come to light in so many different ways over the years with my friends, and their kids getting a little bit older, and you're all of a sudden in a situation where you have absolutely no control, because once they hit 18, you have no access to anything. You can't talk to the doctor. You can't even get an explanation of an EOB through the insurance company. So there are ways, of course, to get medical authority. They sign something, you sign something, but I don't think that parents are aware of what's coming down the pike with that. And, it is kind of scary, because if your kid's 18, they could still be a senior in high school. And if something happens, it's really like people aren't informed of that. So it's like something that maybe there is some kind of planning tool for that.
Well, first, I would like you to explain what EOB is to your listeners, because that's
right. Thank you.
Try to avoid.
Explanation of benefits from your insurance company that detail what your bill, what's being billed and why.
Right. Thank you. I'm sorry about this cold I have. So yes, they should know about this. And a lot of times, first, the HIPAA law is that they can speak. Doctors and nurses can speak to the family. They might not want them to make decisions for them, but right on HIPAA on our website, there's where it says patient advocate support. You can click on HIPAA and it says, can the doctor speak to my family? Yes, they can. So doctors and nurses can make judgment calls. So we don't want people to think that they are not allowed to, because they can. They have to make that decision. But yes, if somebody is injured or there is a problem and the family wants to be involved, it's very hard for a parent to talk to their children about getting a healthcare proxy or getting a form filled out, because nobody wants to think that their child's going to die. I've had these conversations with my kids when my youngest son's car flipped over a few times midway across country. I didn't have anything in writing. Now he carries on him a healthcare proxy with my name. I have a copy of it also. So I could call up, I could fax it to them. It's in his wallet. It says that I am there. I'm available to make decisions and to get information about him. So we definitely want, at 18 years old, parents need to know that they can't just assume that they're going to be the ones to talk, even though doctors and nurses can make that decision.
Right. Yeah. So I wanted to put that out there. It's so important, because I've had friends, and even myself, I've been in situations where, I'll have to have one of the kids call in and authorize me. So, in a healthcare proxy, it doesn't mean, at the end, it just means, you're managing your own. We talk about this a lot too, with wills, and, it's about you managing your own decisions, what's going to make you happy in all these different situations, and now no one else taking control over you.
It's not necessarily how you're going to die. It's how you want to live.
Right.
And we have all that on our website. Step number 1 is a lot of information on that. Exactly that.
I like that.
You just said something that I don't do. And that is, I have a detailed medication list and the medical history and so on that's in my wallet, but I do not have the name of the health proxy in that recap. And really, I'm going to add it. I think it's a good point.
And if you have a phone, you know, where you hit emergency call,
right?
You can list them in there, because even if your phone is locked, they can hit that button and the information.
Excellent.
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Your medications could be in there. You can list everything in there. It doesn't have to be, it could be locked. You could still get in there.
Well, Eileen, so much information you provided us. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we are at our next break, and we're going to preparing for our next segment where we're going to have the supervisor, Jennifer DeSena, and then talk of the town. Again, thank you so much for this whole hour. I know Kristina's going to have you back again. And I hope that you'll come back, and maybe we can work on, you know, other projects with you and with Project Independence.
Love it. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.